In this video, we will learn and implement HTTP methods in React. So we are having total 4 methods, that is get method, which is used to retrieve data from the server. Post method, that's used to send new data to the server, often when submitting forms or creating new records. We also have put method, which is used to update the existing data on the server by replacing the entire resource. And then finally we have delete method, which is used to delete the data from the server. We have two different ways to implement these HTTP methods in ReactJS. The first one is using the fetch API, which is native JavaScript API that allows you to make network requests. You also have another way, that is the Axios, which is a popular library for HTTP requests that provides a cleaner syntax than the fetch API and also includes the automatic JSON parsing and better error handling. We will be utilizing the fake REST API JSONPlaceholder, which is a free fake REST API. Click on the link and you will be able to get certain resources with which you will be able to work. So there are 6 resources. We are going to use this one, that is users, where already 10 users are available. So when you click on this, you will be able to have this data, which is an array of JSON data, or you can say objects. And now you need to copy this link so that we can utilize this link in our program. This data represents the list of users with, let's say, ID 1, that contains these properties: ID, name, username, address. There are sub properties as well, and so on. So total we have 10 users to work with. First of all, we are going to implement the get HTTP method with the fetch API. So let's come to VS Code and create a component HTTP requests right, and we are going to use a useState variable as users and a setUsers function in order to change the state of the users. So initially the state will be an empty array. Since the data is an array, it's in the form of an array of objects, so we need to put the initial state as an empty array. Let's use the fetch API or the fetch function that accepts the parameter, that is the URL from where you want to fetch the data, and that is JSONPlaceholder.typicode.com/users. It returns a promise .then where it accepts a callback having a parameter, let's say a response, and this needs to return response.json. Also, we need to have another promise .then, once again a callback that accepts a parameter, let's say JSON. Use the setUsers function in order to set the users, or you can say fetch the users. Now, as we have seen in the syntax, that after the fetch request is completed, it will return a response object. So this response object contains the data from the request, but this is not in the suitable format. So that's the reason we are calling response.json in order to parse the response body as JSON, and hence returns a promise that resolves with a result. So it means that this second dot then promise will receive the parsed data. This parsed data is an array of users and will update the state using the set users. The set users is what? It's the function that we are having in the destructuring syntax. Alright, so now we are aware of the syntax. Now we need to show the data on the browser. So for this, we have to use, since we want to fetch the data of the users, now that is our choice whether we want to fetch the name or the city or the phone number or whatever. So we are going to fetch it as a list, as an unordered list. So use the JSX, and we need to use the users variable, use .map function that accepts the callback, wherein the parameter I'm going to use user. This user represents a single item, and we are going to use the list item in this. Use the key attribute, key equals to user id, user.id, and the data that we want to fetch inside JSX is id of the user and the name of the user, user.name. So let's have a look on the browser and see what is being received. Alright, so we are supposed to render it. Use HTTP requests. Let's check the result. So you can see that we are able to fetch the data. But let's try to print this on the console as well. Let's see what this prints. We are going to use console.log. We are going to print the JSON. Alright. Let's check it. You can see that something is being retrieved, an array of objects is being retrieved, but there is some kind of infinite loop as you can see here. Now actually why this is happening? Because we are not using the use effect hook. In React, the components re-render whenever their state or props change. So if you're calling this set users directly in the component body, it will trigger a state change. When the set users is called, it updates the component state, and which causes the component to re-render. So during each re-render, the fetch call is executed again, which is again updating the state, and the cycle repeats endlessly. So we need to avoid this. We have a way out. For this, we need to use the use effect hook. First of all, let's import the use effect hook. So if you remember, we already discussed that use effect hook is utilized for performing some side effects or for fetching the data. And this is what we are doing right now. Also, you need to specify an empty array dependency in order to show that there is no dependency and the component should not re-render infinitely. Let's take a look on the browser. We will refresh. Now you see that the component is rendered just once. And you can also see that nowhere we have specified the method name, because when we do not use, it's the syntax of fetch function that if we are not using any name of the HTTP method, by default it means that it's going to use the get method. All right, so let's proceed with the other three methods. The next method is the post method that is used to insert the data. But this is a fake REST API, and we can only simulate our code in order to get a response that some data has been inserted. We actually cannot insert the data here because it's a fake REST API. Anyhow, we can still utilize it. So, first of all, you are also required to, we will delete this from here because we only need to now generate a response that the data is inserted, or you can generate some error that the data could not be inserted. We are going to have a response variable as response message, and also set response message. The initial state of these messages will be an empty string. We need another one for the error message. If there is any error in setting, in showing, or you can say in inserting the data, set error, showing the response or inserting the data, equals to use state, put it as an empty string. For inserting the data, we need some data, and we are going to create a fake data as new user data. We are going to create one object indicating the name of the user. Let's say I'm writing here some dummy name. Email is dummy email@gmail.com, and we need address and a subproperty as city, dummy city. Right, and after this you need to specify the second parameter in the fetch function, which is an object. So here you are going to write the method. As already discussed, if you are not specifying any method, it means that by default it's a get method, and if you specify the method, it will be considered. Now after this, you are also required to mention the body property where you need to stringify the JSON by using stringify the object that you are having here. So this object will be stringified using JSON.stringify and specify the parameter as new user data. Okay, and now after this you have to change the response message. So first we will use set the response message to user created successfully, and alongside the set error will be an empty string. In the same way, now you're going to change this to catch function, wherein you have a callback, and the catch functionality is going to handle the errors. So if there is any error, it will set the error to failed to create user, and alongside the response message will be empty string. So if the user could be inserted, it means that we can generate the positive response. If the user could not be inserted, we can generate a negative response. Let's now utilize the JSX in order to show this. we will remove this. And let's create an h2 tag, create user. Okay, use the JSX. If there is the response message, then we would like to use the ternary operator. If response message is true, means if it was generated, if the user could be inserted, then we can assign the response message some color in the form of object. Let's say the color is green. Okay. So if this is true, it will be applied the color as green. And if this is false, then no color should be applied. Same way you can go for the error message. So if there is error message, then in that case you will be applying the style as color red. And if there is no error, then no need to apply any style, means it will be simply null. The colors should be in inverted quotes, green and red. Now we need to render the messages. The first one is response message. The second one we have the error message. Let's have a look on the browser. We will reload and you're able to get this response, user created successfully. So this indicates that the program that we have written is totally correct and will be able to insert the data in real world scenario as well. Now let's use the put method in order to update the data. So only a few changes are required. First of all, in the fetch function, you need to mention the ID of the user that is required to be changed. So let's say if I write here 1. And secondly, you also need an updated user data. So I will just change updated user data. The variable name is updated user data. In JSON.stringify, I specify updated user data and mention the method as put method. The rest of the code is going to remain the same. Let's take a look. This is generating the response. All that is required is we can have user updated successfully instead of created successfully. Failed to update user. Okay, so this seems fine. User updated successfully. Let's go for the delete method now. We just need to delete a particular user with the specific ID. That ID we have mentioned here. The method will be delete method and we don't require at this point because all that is needed is to delete the data. And we can just simply change the messages. User deleted successfully, failed to delete user as the error. And here we can have the heading as delete user. Let's take a look. User deleted successfully. In the next video, we will implement the HTTP methods with the help of Axios library. Till that time, stay tuned.